Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Master Duel Swordsoul P.U.N.K deck profile. So I'm really excited to do something for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Meli. And this deck is an extremely fun deck to play because of just how well Swordsoul and P.U.N.K work together. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Meli some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Moyi. Moyi is definitely a 3-of in the build with an awesome ability, and this card is normal or special summon. You're going to reveal a Swordsoul card or a worm monster in your hand and special summon out a Swordsoul token. It is a worm tuner, water, level 4, 0 attack, 0 defense. But while you have a Swordsoul token out on your side of the field, you cannot summon monsters from the extra deck except synchro monsters. This card also has a great effect that if this card is used as a synchro material, you get to draw a card, which is such a powerful effect to be able to just instantly get a draw, especially when you go in for something like a copy of Grandmaster that's also going to give you a search, which is so cool about this card. This card really is one of the best starters in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Longyun. Longyun is really awesome. Just summon out our level 10 synchro monsters with the ability you can discard one of their Swordsoul card or a worm monster to special summon this card from your hand, then special summon a Swordsoul token to your side of the field. And if this card is used as a synchro material, you get to inflict 1200 points of damage to your opponent, helping you close the gap so you can go in for game. We then play 2 copies of Taiye. You really only need 2 copies of Taiye, and Taiye is really good in the deck because it has the ability you can actually banish a Swordsoul card or a worm monster in the graveyard to special summon out a Swordsoul token to your side of the field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can actually send a Swordsoul card or a worm monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great ability to get the exact card you want in the grave. We then play 2 copies of Incredible Ecclesia. Incredible Ecclesia is really good, but I just play 2 copies in this particular build because we are playing the P.U.N.K engine. This card is great because if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card in your hand, and during the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card to be able to special summon out a Swordsoul monster to your side of the field, like a copy of Moyi, which is really good to be able to instantly get your copy Moyi to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Vishuda. Vishuda is really good as a 2-of in the build, even though we are playing P.U.N.K cards in this build. Your copies of Vishuda are really good because they're basically a bounce, which is insane, and they're also just insane because they're level 7s and they don't lock you into anything, so you can summon out a copy of a Vishuda and then summon out a copy of, say, a Xiamen or any of your other level 3 P.U.N.K monsters and go in for a level 10 synchro play at the very least if your copy of your P.U.N.K monster gets negated, which is why I really like playing Vishuda in the build. We then play 3 copies of Xiamen, getting into the P.U.N.K engine of the deck. Xiamen is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is lets you pay 600 life points to add a P.U.N.K monster from your deck to your hand. We then play 2 copies of Foxy-Tune. Foxy-Tune is definitely a 2-of in the build. This card is ability you send this card and another card from your hand to the graveyard to be able to special summon a P.U.N.K monster from your deck except a level 8 monster, which is great to instantly get your copy of Xiamen, your copies of Shirakusai, Deer Note, depending on what your field is and what your hand is, depends on what you summon out, but this card is amazing to be able to use to get the exact P.U.N.K monster you want on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Shirakusai. Shirakusai is one of the best targets to summon off your copy of your Foxy-Tune, as this card is ability you can pay 600 life points to fusion summon a P.U.N.K fusion monster, but during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can pay 600 life points to be able to synchro summon a monster that using monsters that you control to synchro summon into a P.U.N.K synchro monster, which is a great ability to help you step into something like an amazing dragon so you can bounce multiple cards off the field. We then play a single copy of Wagon. Wagon is really good. You can pay 600 life points to add a P.U.N.K spell from your deck to your hand, which is always the field spell Jam Extreme Session. We then play a single copy of Madam Spider. Madam Spider is great because you pay 600 life points to add a P.U.N.K trap from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Dangerous Gaboo. We then play a single copy of Deer Note. Deer Note's really good as a 1-of in build, as this card is a great ability. If this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can target a P.U.N.K monster in the grave except a level 5 monster and special summon it, but you can cannot special summon a copy of Deer Note for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine. It's just going to instantly get you another monster out on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Ogre Dance. Ogre Dance is really good in the deck as a 1-of, because this card is a great ability that's basically a rota that you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to add a punk monster from your deck to your hand. I did consider playing this card as a 2-of in the build, but I just couldn't find the room for the second copy. We then play a single copy of Protos. Protos is really good as a 1-of in the build, because this card is just an insane floodgate. This card is so powerful in the deck, it's just crazy. It has the ability, it must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 monsters with different attributes from your graveyard and or face up from the field. It cannot be destroyed by card effects, and you can declare 1 monster attribute on the field and destroy all monsters on the field with that attribute. Also, until the end of the next turn, neither player can special summon monsters with that attribute, which is such an insane lockdown effect, especially since this card is searchable off Emergence, which is absolutely crazy. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the hand traps. So for the hand traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's definitely a 3-of, just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We also play 3 copies of Maxi, since it is a Master Duel deck profile, just to basically let us draw a card every time our opponent breathes, which is absolutely insane. This card is really good in the deck, and it's crazy that Maxi is still at 3, and it's such a powerful card that every time your opponent special summons, you're going to get to draw a card. So that's it for the hand traps, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Swordsoul Sacred Summit. Swordsoul Sacred Summit is really good as a 1-of in the build, because this card is basically a monster reborn for your Swordsoul cards, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Jam Extreme Session. This card is insane because it lets you draw 2 cards. It has the ability once per turn, you can banish a punk card from your graveyard to special summon a punk monster from your hand. And if a psychic monster you control paid life points to activate its effect, you get to draw a card. And you can use that effect up to twice per turn, which is absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Crossout Designator just to stop our opponent's hand traps like Max C and Ash Blossom. And then we play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is definitely a 2-of, again, just to stop your opponent's hand traps. We then play 2 copies of Emergency Teleport. Emergency Teleport is definitely a 2-of in the build. It's currently at 2 in Master Duel. Hopefully it goes back to 3. If it does go back to 3, definitely play it, because this card is basically 1 card combo for your entire punk engine, which is insane. And I love that about this card, that it basically just instantly gets your copy of Xiamen out to your side of the field, and then you just go full combo. We then play 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence. Swordsoul Emergence is really good because this card is rota for your Swordsouls, but if you control a Synchro monster, you can add a Worm monster instead from your deck to your hand, meaning you can add your copy of Protos off this card's effect, which is broken. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Dangerous Gaboo and a single copy of Swordsoul Blackout. Dangerous Gaboo is really good to be able to use as a negate because it is searchable off your copy of Maddened Spider, letting you target an effect monster opponent control and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Then, if you control a punk monster, you gain life points equal to target monster's original attack points. Your copy of Blackout is also really good in the deck, so it lets you target a worm monster you control and 2 cards that your opponent controls and destroy them, basically giving you an Icarus attack that's searchable. This card also has the ability, if it's banished, then you can actually special summon a Swordsoul token to your side of the field, which is a great ability to help you keep going in for your synchro plays. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with a single copy of Amazing Dragon. Amazing Dragon is one of my favorite synchro monsters for its artwork alone. This card is really good because if this card is synchro summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of a level 3 psychic monsters with different names that you control and in your graveyard and return them back to the hand, which is a crazy powerful effect, especially when Shirakusai can actually synchro summon during your opponent's turn to use this card as a disruption. We then play a single copy of Psychic in Punisher. Punisher. And Punisher just takes games because it gets absolutely huge and OTKs your opponent. We play a single copy of Geomathemic Final Sigma. Final Sigma is really good because it's unaffected by card effects except Mathematic cards while in the extra monster zone, which is just a really good option to be able to make in this deck. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is just great to be able to use as a walking negate and pop cards on the field. We then play a single copy of Supreme Sovereign. Supreme Sovereign is really good just as a one-of because this card is great for each card that's banished. It gains 100 attack and defense and monster opponent control lose 100 attack and defense. And if this card would be destroyed by card effect, you can actually banish a card from the grave instead, and if this card is, or if any card is banished, it has the ability you can banish one card each from both your opponent's field and graveyard, which is really cool to be able to deal with cards in your opponent's field and grave if any card becomes banished. We can play a single copy of Sinister Sovereign. Sinister Sovereign is insane because if a worm monster is synchro summoned, you get to draw a card. This card also has the ability does burn damage, which is really insane because if your opponent special summons a monster, you can banish one of those monsters, and if you do, inflict 1200 points of damage to your opponent. But if they activate a spell or trap card, you can banish that spell or trap card and also inflict 1200 points of damage, and you use both of those effects in the same turn, which is absolutely broken to do 1200 points of burn damage to your opponent. If you go for a long Yun to do 1200 from that card, and then do both of these cards with 1200 points of damage, you're basically going to go in for 3600 points of damage without even attacking, which is crazy powerful. We then play two copies of Grandmaster. This card is great to be able to summon with your copy of Mogi. If this card is synchro summon, you get to add to your hand or banish a Sword Soul card from your deck, and you can also use this card as a walking negate, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Draco Berserker. Draco Berserker gets absolutely massive and goes in for game. And when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish it, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Jam Dragon Drive. Jam Dragon Drive is really good for our Punk engine, because if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Punk card, or it's synchro summon, you can pay 600 life points and actually take a level 3 Psychic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard, which is such a cool ability just to instantly get the exact card you need. We then play a single copy of Crimson Blader. Crimson Blader is just really good in this meta because if this card destroys an opponent's monster from a battle and sends it to the graveyard, your opponent cannot normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters during their next turn, which is such a cool ability. We then play a single copy of Boxia. Boxia is really good in the deck because it's a multiple bounce, which helps out a lot. One copy of Rising Carp. Rising Carp helps out so much in the build because you can trigger this card to be able to special summon up to 2 Punk monsters with different names from each other from your hand or deck, except a level 8 monster in defense position, which is a really cool effect. We then also play 2 copies of Monk. Monk is really good as a 2-of in the build, just to be able to use with your copy of Vishuda to basically get it off the field so you can use it as a bounce. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Sword Soul Punk deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try in Master Duel because it's such a cool deck with how well the Punk cards work with the Sword Soul cards, and it's absolutely crazy the plays that you can make with this build. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.